Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Muslim Marriage Podcast, where we talk about healthier relationships from a Muslim lens. I'm Zahra Hassan.
And I'm AJ, and we've been married for 2.5 years.
And let's get started.
Let's get started.
On this week's episode, we'll be talking about sharing the responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think that this was an important topic to talk about early.
Yes.
Because this is something that comes up early in people's marriages.
Also, if one of you guys in the crowd just got married last week, this is the perfect episode for you.
Inshallah.
You can break each other down and build each other back up.
Okay, all right. It would have been long enough to have laundry. And now there's that question of who does the laundry, right?
Exactly.
Yes. So I know we're making light of this topic, but it is probably the third most common reason why, in my opinion, according to what I've seen in our practice, it's probably the third most common reason for divorce.
Yeah.
I would say if it's at least in the top 3 reasons why there is divorce.
At least.
Yeah, because of when people are in the talking stage, sometimes they don't ask the questions about what are each other's expectations in the role of marriage. Like, what do you expect of me in this marriage, and what should I expect of you?
Yeah.
They don't ask that question. And in addition, they don't really they don't have a chance to focus on developing good conflict resolution systems for their marriage. So for these 2 reasons, it can set them up to be in a position where they don't really know how to share the responsibilities without it turning into a fight.
Yeah.
And that aspect just becomes taxing after a while.
Of course, there's also a reason why in Islam, it is expected that they speak with each other's family to get a gauge of their personality, responsibilities, and who they are. Outside of this veil that they have that they're showing to you. Because when you're in a talking stage with somebody, you're getting the presidential candidate.
Yes, you are.
Know?
Yeah.
They're all souped up and tuxed up, and they're like, pinky finger up when I drink. All polite and whatnot. But then when you get married to them after a couple months, right?
Yeah.
That's when their inner self, the one that they show their siblings, family members growing up, that's when that personality comes out and they relax around you. They drop their guard, And that person that you had, this idealized version of you during the talking stage, that'll falter. Almost always. Yeah. It's called the honeymoon stage for a reason.
Yeah. No, I completely agree, right? So that's why when you meet somebody new. So if you go back to before you're married and you're still in the talking stage and you meet somebody new, it's important to keep in mind if what they're telling you. So when you ask this question of what should you expect from me, and they say, yeah, no, I believe that we should share the responsibilities of cooking and cleaning and budgeting and grocery and all the things. We're going to share them, right? Yeah. You should also include as part of that equation what they've been doing up until now. Yeah. So if this is somebody, and it's not just to really harp on anyone, but as an example, if the person who's telling you this is the youngest child in his house, and he's taken care of by his parents and all of his siblings, and really hasn't had to do much of anything for himself.
He doesn't even have any calluses on his hands.
Exactly. Like, it doesn't make him a bad person, but I would take with a grain of salt what it is he's telling you, right? Yeah. Versus if you have somebody who has been living by themselves and is fully independent for a year, 2 years, and
they're missing an eye.
Okay. And why are they missing an eye?
It's hard work.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Being independent?
No, cleaning the house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You might misplace the bleach or clean the knife wrong or something. Anything could happen.
I don't know how you've been cleaning the house. It seems extreme.
It's a fight every day.
Good God. But if this person has been living by themselves, and they tell you they can take on some of the cooking and cleaning. That's a different you can I would put more weight in what that person tells you, right?
Exactly.
So just take into consideration what they have been doing up until now. So that's during the talking stage. But let's say that it is somebody and you have made this agreement, everything's going to be okay. It'll be 50-50 in terms of responsibilities. You're married, you're in the house now. And that idea starts to shift for one reason or another. Like the reality of how that plays out starts to shift. This is an extremely common scenario. Yeah. And whenever a client comes to me like this, we focus a lot on building up their conflict resolution skills so that they will have a system in place to be able to talk this out and find a way to find that point of balance together. Yeah. But even before all of that, I think it's important to understand this concept called the mental load. Have you heard of the mental load before?
I haven't.
Okay. So it's something that has been circulating, making its rounds on social media. But I wanted to bring in an official definition so that we had a good starting point. So according to UCLA Health, it is the behind-the-scenes cognitive and emotional work needed to manage a household. So that means it is the sum total of all of the things related to the household on a person's mind, the day to day. Okay,
so it's basically just another word for stress.
Yes, exactly. So household-related stress. The times when a person, like a couple, have problems in their marriage is when there is an imbalance in this mental load, right? So it's important to really be aware of how that is distributed between you and your partner, and to really check in with them and make sure that that's okay. Yeah. Let's before we talk about how to fix it.
To be honest, though, I figure almost all kinds of stress, if not all kinds of stress, is household related stress.
Yeah, definitely, especially in the beginning.
Yeah, like even if there's a gunman outside.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
I would still consider it household related stress. Even when you're working.
Yeah.
Right? I would still consider it household related stress.
Yeah.
Because if there wasn't a household to stress out about, why would I go to work?
Okay.
It's easier. I can steal Kyle's shoes.
Okay. Specific person.
I'll find them.
All right, subhanallah. But I mean, there is that approach.
Yeah.
But for the sake of this podcast, we're just gonna go with this other for now. But yeah, so that the mental load, and the reason why it's important to understand that is because it really addresses the root of the issue.
Yeah.
Whereas if you conceptualize the responsibilities as a series, okay, so you can conceptualize it responsibilities as a series of tasks, like a long to-do list, or you can conceptualize it as a responsibility, right? And there's a it's subtle, but there is a difference between the two. Because if there is just a to-do list and you hand somebody a to-do list, then having to make the to-do list and maintain the to-do list to be able to hand over is a mental stress by itself.
Yeah, like a supervisor.
Exactly, it's a supervisory role. Whereas if you hand over the responsibility, then that becomes more of a partnership role, where I'll take, like, if it was a group project, for example, right? It was 2 people that were members of this group project.
Yeah.
The goal is not just to get an A, right? Sometimes you'll see that in some households where, for appearance's sake, the house will be immaculate. They'll, whatever measures of success, they'll say they have a certain amount of money in the bank. They have this outward appearance of success. They got an A on the project.
Let me guess what you're going to say.
Yeah.
The goal in the group project is not to get an A. It's to not kill your group members out of frustration.
That's part of the equation. Honestly, you're not wrong. right?
Yeah.
So the goal is not just to get an A or to accomplish the task. The goal is to accomplish the task in such a way that both people feel their contributions were fair.
Yes.
Yes, that's the real measure of success in the relationship when it comes to this topic, right?
Yes.
And that's why it's important to, first of all, choose somebody who will be willing to choose the right partner for your group project.
Yeah.
Who has a history of performing well in group projects, right?
Yes.
By that I mean like who has a history of being able to cook and clean and be independent, or whatever it is that you're willing to share, looking to divide up. And second,
honestly, yeah, that is the cool thing about life that separates us from school and group projects, is that in life, almost always you can choose your group partner.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it depends.
Yeah, almost always.
Almost always, you're right.
Arranged marriages without the input of the bride is invalid anyways.
This is true.
Yeah.
This is true. But yeah, so that's, make sure you're choosing the right partner when you're in the talking stage. And now that you're in the group, how it is that you have the discussion of who does what, try not to make that discussion task-based. Try to make it responsibility-based. Like, you are going to now take over this. Okay, so in order to illustrate this well, let's talk about how we solve that issue in our marriage. Do you remember our first year of marriage?
Vaguely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
it was blood everywhere.
Okay.
It was a fight. It was a fight for my life, to be honest.
Alhamdulillah, I won. It's fine.
You did, yeah.
Yeah, you're fine now.
I survived,
Okay.
so I also won.
There you go. But during that first year, there was this issue of shared responsibility. I remember that it was something that I was stressed out about a lot. Yeah, because I remember my personality is such that I take on a lot more than I'm capable of handling. And then I find out the wrong way, or find out the hard way, that it's more than I should be trying to handle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we were first all living together, I took over all the cleaning because that's what I'm good at. Right.
Yeah. I learned very quickly when I tried to wash the dishes or stock the fridge after we went shopping. You would say, no, stop. You're doing it wrong.
Yes.
I got to take over from here. And I'm like, well, what's the right way to do it? And then you would do it. And I'm like, that's the way I was doing it too, but like with less perfection.
There you go.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just you. Like, I remember growing up with my family, it was the same way. And now we live all together with my sister and my little nephew. And it's the same way again. Like, my sister, she knows that it's exhausting the way that I stock the fridge, because I take everything out, I wipe everything down, I clean the fridge. Well, as we stock the fridge, that's just how I am. Yeah. It's exhausting, and she worries about if the meat and eggs or stuff will spoil, but that's just how I do it. So I was taking on too much, right? In terms, not just cleaning, but cleaning and cooking and budgeting. Budgeting is a big one for whoever it is that is responsible for that, all the bills, grocery store shopping, meal planning, laundry. It was just a very long list, in addition to working full time. So I remember becoming overwhelmed, and I made the mistake that we had this really good system of conflict resolution in place.
Yeah.
We talked about it in detail in the last podcast.
In the office.
Yeah, exactly. Of how to establish the safe space. What are the specific steps when you sit down and have the discussion? We went through all of that. And alhamdulillah, we had that in place. So we kept coming back in here and saying, okay, I'm going to need some help with this task. That was the mistake that I made, is that I would try to hand over a task. And I would say, here, can you take over doing the dishes? I can't do them anymore. And then I would see you do the dishes, and then I would just be like, you know what, maybe it's faster, maybe if I do it, and then I would go and I take that task back. Like, I would give you tasks and then I would take them back.
Yeah.
Or even the task that I gave you, because I would have to take that supervisory role over the task, it wasn't very effective. Like that mental load was still there. And so we kept coming back into the office, and I was like, what's going on? Why isn't this working? Until one day, on reading up on this topic a little bit, it was on a random social media post that I came across this idea of the mental load. And I looked into it a little bit, and I was like, yes, that's it. That's the issue. That's the word.
Eureka.
Yeah. I was like, that's what's happening. I've been just handing over tasks when I should hand over the whole responsibility of the thing. Right? So we came back in here and we sat down and we decided what are some of the responsibilities that I can now hand to you. And alhamdulillah, that's been extremely helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, for example, a small example would be the garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah, garbage is very complicated here for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
It requires very specific bags. You have to take these big cans back and forth. It's just a lot of maintenance. So I used to tell you, can you please throw out the garbage at specific time? That wasn't well helping. Instead, I said, I'm just going to hand over the whole responsibility of garbage. And you said, yeah, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, and I've taken over. And I like tossing out the garbage.
Yeah.
It gives me a chance to talk to the neighbors, sometimes yell at them.
Okay.
And honestly, guys, you would love our neighbors. Everybody here recycles.
Okay. What is that, Step Brothers?
Yeah.
Step Brothers. That was a good reference. But yeah, so that's an example. Also laundry. Yeah, I just gave before I would wash the clothes, and then I would fold them, and then I'd put them like very neatly into, like I would do the whole closets each time.
Mm-hmm.
And that was not sustainable at all.
Yeah.
So I just handed over laundry to you.
Yeah, it was weird because like it was like walking into a store and seeing the clothes laid out like you're trying to buy them.
Yeah.
I already own them. Why do they look fancy?
That's just, for me, that was my norm. That's how I've always lived. But I've come over to your way of thinking in that, I'm not going to lie. It's just
it saves
easier.
So much more energy.
Yeah, it really...
Just fold them up neatly and just put them away.
Yeah, on top of all the other ones that are not folded neatly.
That's beautiful. It works out. You know which one's clean.
You used to have this habit that would drive me crazy,
mm-hmm.
where I would I would put all of your shirts, and no matter what order they were in, you always wanted whatever's in the bottom.
Yeah.
And then you would just, without looking, like you wouldn't even look at the pile, you pull it out and all of them would collapse and it would not be an issue. I'm
not very good at pulling the tablecloth out from under the utensils.
But I was like, there's so many t-shirts. Just take one of the t-shirts on top. It's never the one on top.
It's never the one on top.
Oh my gosh, that would drive me crazy. That did drive me crazy for a while.
Yeah.
It was one of those things that I had to let go.
Mm.
So that brings me nicely to the next point.
Yeah.
When it comes to handing over responsibility of something, you have to actually hand over the responsibility.
Yeah.
That part of that means that I'm going to now let go of me having anything to do with it.
Yeah.
Which means I don't get to criticize.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get to say you're doing it this way or you're doing it that way. It's as if I'm not there.
Yeah, you're no longer a supervisor. You've now sold your shares and you're out of the company.
That's perfect. That's exactly what it is, right? So that was part of what I was doing wrong, is that I was still monitoring from the background.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to not monitor. You need to let go and walk away and accept whatever happens. Is you just deal with however it is that happens.
That's it.
A really important aspect of doing that is it gives your spouse a chance to show up for you.
Yeah.
Right? Finally, it gives them a real chance to show up for you. And the more that you show up for each other, it builds in that trust.
They also feel more independent now, you know?
Yeah.
There's a higher level of the feeling of respect. Like one of the pet peeves I used to have, which you didn't exploit very often because it's not in your nature.
Yeah.
But when I would be going somewhere, doing something.
Yeah.
Like if I'm just about to go downstairs to do the dishes or something, and as I'm walking there, somebody says, "Hey, can you do the dishes?" I turn back around and I sit down for like 15 minutes. I'm like, okay, I was feeling good about myself. I was going to do the dishes. It was going to be my own thing.
Yeah.
Right. But now I feel like I'm doing it for this person, but I want to feel like I'm doing it for myself. right?
Yeah.
So I just sit down and I'd wait until the feeling reset so that the prerogative is now mine again.
Yeah.
And then I go downstairs and do the dishes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get stun locked because I'm about to go downstairs and they're like, hey, don't forget to do the dishes. I told you this already 15 minutes ago.
Oh,
and
no.
you're like, what's going on here? Why are you keeping me here? So I got to sit down again and it's a whole ordeal.
Yeah.
Right? And they'll get frustrated because they're like, this guy's not listening to me. I keep telling him to do the dishes. And I'm like, just let me live.
Yeah, let me live my life.
Let me live my life.
Can I live?
Bon Jovi.
There you
It's
go.
my life.
So it's like so autonomy. Autonomy, yeah. Because part of if you continuously tell your spouse is an adult, right?
Yeah.
If you tell another adult what to do over and over again, at some point their patience starts to run thin, and if done continuously enough, it can turn into a secondary wound, right? So those are some of the times the couples that come in where, because she's been telling him, can you please wash the dishes, like that same day? And he will have, for example, he's a little bit more laid back, and he's like, it's fine if they soak overnight, I'll wash them the next day. That's just how he's been doing things. That's how he's been living his life.
Yeah.
And that's fine, right? There's more than one way to live life. That's okay.
What's the phrase? There's more than one way to peel an orange, or is it skin an apple?
It's skin a cat for some reason.
Why the heck are they skinning cats?
I don't know.
Hello? Are these guys okay?
I don't know. I
What?
mean, it's such a graphic statement. Every time I hear it, it takes me a minute to recover from it.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Having said all that, so it's letting him do things his way. But because she believes very strongly, and when I say she, it was me, because I was this person for a while. She believes very strongly that they need to be washed the same night for hygiene reasons, to prevent bugs. I really don't like bugs. Whatever is her reasoning. She'll be like, but you need to wash them tonight. You need to wash them. So sometimes he'll let.
Oh yeah, no. For you, it wasn't wash them tonight. For you, it was wash them immediately, right? Because the second the dishes get soiled, they're used. You want to wash them the second that they're there, and then put them into the drying rack. Yeah. For me, I was the one that prescribed to the idea of, well, just let them in the sink, right? And then before we go to sleep, we'll just wash the dishes all at once, and in that way, they're all clean for tomorrow. But of course, you were worried about the bugs, and you knew that the bugs would have a chance to get in there in the middle of the day because they don't wait for a night, or maybe they do.
Yeah, they're all nocturnal.
Bugs are all nocturnal.
Yeah, a lot of them are, but you're right. Everything you're saying is right? But sometimes people are not as aware of what they're doing, right? So in this case, whenever I would have a client like that, I would try to help them find a middle ground between the two stances. Yeah. Because a big part of marriage, and I know it's so overstated, it's almost lost its meaning, is compromise. You have to understand that there is your way of doing things, but there's also their way of doing things, and both can be correct. Yeah. And you need to find a way to balance that out. Sometimes this can be a reason for why they're having difficulty sharing their responsibilities, because each believes that their way is correct, right? Yeah. So in this case, when you're harping is the wrong word. When you're telling him, can you do it this way? Can you do it this way? And he might say yes quite a few times. Eventually, he'll start to build some kind of resentment that, why don't I get to do it my way ever? Yeah. How come I've been living fine all these years doing it my way, and it's been fine my way. Let me do it my way. And the resentment might start building, and that can turn into a secondary wound of autonomy. And what that will mean is that this will start to lead to more frequent escalations. Yeah. And this can be the underlying cause of their fights.
Yeah.
of he's doing it this way that it's wrong, and she's not letting me do anything my way, and my ways is right sometimes.
Yeah.
So like this is a common issue.
Yeah. So they do need to compromise with each other, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, when it comes to marriage, compromise is a communal promise, a compromise.
Okay, that works out.
So if you guys forget to compromise, don't forget communal promise.
Communal promise.
Communal promise.
Okay, I already forgot, baby.
Let's shake on that.
Okay.
Communal promise.
All right. So for this couple who's having that issue, that difficulty, this is one of those situations where it really helps to have that good conflict resolution system in place.
Exactly.
Yes, because as long as you're not too far down the road of resentment, right? Like, because once resentment really starts to set in, and you start developing things like contempt for each other, or you start doing stonewalling, or just one of the four horsemen of divorce that was described in Dr. Gottman's book. As long as you're not that far down that road where you just really need therapy or counseling, if that's going to help, then you can start to reset or undo some of that resentment through a good conflict resolution, which we talked about in the last podcast. Yeah. So let's discuss how we can go through.
Before you do,
okay,
the stonewalling, always a bad idea, right? Because if you stonewall, the person will never ever be able to engage with you properly.
Yes, absolutely. Like, that's why it's so damaging. Like, we can discuss the concepts of what it was that he discussed.
Before that. Okay. Right? Stonewalling is bad. That's why if you ever do want to block out your significant other in a way where you can still leave it open to communicate, you either straw wall them or stick wall them. Okay. Because they can blow down those walls. Okay. But they can't blow down the stone walls.
Three Little Pigs?
What? What are you talking about?
Okay, never mind. It was me. I imagined it.
Where did you get that from?
From some wolf. Okay. That's terrible. So let's talk about how it is that people can start to sort this out in their marriage. They can go through some of the steps that we discussed in the previous episode and some of the steps that we discussed so far. It's going to require a series of discussions. Yeah. Right? Because the longer that you're married, you're going to see different areas of responsibility come up. Yeah. Maybe, or you're going to have different times in your life where maybe you have a bigger project at work than normal, and you're going to need to reevaluate the distribution of responsibilities again. So it's just accept the fact that you might have to be a little bit repetitive with each other. And you might have to keep coming back into your safe space at least 3 times, 4 times, whatever it is in that month.
That's not a bad thing.
It's not.
Just like the Quran.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
You have to repeat.
Yeah.
That's the only way you get stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. It's practice, right? Yeah. It's good practice. But so the first thing is to accept that it's going to require a series of discussions going through the previous steps, right? Keep in mind that when you're divvying it up, like I've already said multiple times, but it's worth repeating. Don't divide tasks, divide responsibilities. Exactly. And once you hand over responsibility, you've completely handed it over. You're not going to supervise it. You're not going to try not to monitor it. You're going to trust this person who was an adult that you trusted enough to marry. Right? Remember, you married them for a reason. They're more than capable. They were alive these 20 years or 30 years without you.
Just barely.
They're going to be just fine. They will be just fine. Give him a chance to show up for you. The more he shows up for you, In Shaa Allah, it will reinforce the trust that you have between each other. It will reinforce the respect that you have for him. It will be positive and wonderful for your marriage. Yes. Instead of it being a challenge, it can turn into an opportunity where you can start to really develop these things that can form foundations, like
Yes.
real foundations for a successful marriage, inshallah. So it's going to be a series of discussions. You're going to hand over responsibility, and you're going to trust him to do it completely.
The cool thing about being married is that you guys have similar goals, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, the ultimate goal is to be so naturally responsible that you don't have to focus on being responsible.
Yeah.
You can now be irresponsible.
Okay, no. Please don't do that.
No, like, you guys get what I'm saying. She doesn't understand me.
I didn't catch that.
You can be so responsible
Yeah.
that you can now be irresponsible.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to assume that I trust. See, I trust you.
It means something.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
I trust you.
Don't stonewall me.
I won't. I won't. So that's how you do that. A second concept is to be willing to step in when your spouse needs you. So even though that you do, so for example, when it comes, like, the garbage is a responsibility that you've taken over, but there may be a week that you're not feeling well, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe you're not feeling well, or maybe like you have more work to do on the night that it's due.
Alhamdulillah, there have been weeks like that.
Yeah, definitely. So I don't go in and I don't check in on you. I already know that you're not feeling well. I just go do it. Right? So that week, without telling you, I just go do it. I make sure it's done, and that's it. So
and then I get angry. I'm like, what's going on?
Don't worry about it.
This is my garbage.
Okay.
Hands off my garbage.
All right, never mind.
Yeah.
But it's like that. Be willing to step in and help your spouse when they are having trouble with what you've already decided, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a static list. It's a dynamic list of responsibilities.
Shifting.
Exactly. That will be dependent on where you guys are at your lives, and what each one needs, and what each one is good at that month or that year or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's the second thing. The third thing is, please understand that when you have children, inshallah, if you decide to have children, when you have children, everything goes back to square one.
Yeah, you're done for.
Yeah, you have to now resit down and go through. So say you've been married for 2 years, everything's moving smoothly. You have this wonderful foundation in place. Everybody knows what they're doing. Everyone knows, all of that's in set. And you have a child. You're now going to be back to day one, as if you're back to you're married all over again for the first time, and learning to communicate again for the first time.
Not even that. Now you have a extra issue.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're learning to communicate again for the first time. But now you guys don't have any sleep to do so.
Yeah,
that's a big part of it. You don't have any patience for that.
That's a big part of it, because when people are stressed, when, like, it's part of our nature, human nature, the more stressed that we are, the more we revert back and back to our baseline,
our base nature.
Yes, our inner child, right? So if whatever core wounds that you had that were before running in the background on soft, right, on mild, on minimum, they're now running the show. They're very loud.
The vocal minority.
Exactly, they're very loud. Exactly. So if you have, for example, a core wound around autonomy, right, and you haven't slept in 3 days, and plus you still have to go to work, and you still have to do all these things, that core wound on autonomy means that if she says, "Hey, can you grab me a glass of water?" that might be enough to trigger you.
GG.
Yeah, right. So it's very important that you already have this system of conflict resolution to fall back into place, where you have established these rules of how you talk to each other, with respect and with kindness and with calm. And that you also have this history of being able to trust each other. If I have a history of being able to trust you, of taking over certain responsibilities, now when there's this baby, I can say, you know what, why don't you take over the night shifts, and I'll take over the day shifts, and I'll feel comfortable handing you over that responsibility because you're someone I trust. You see what I'm saying? So it's that initial test of dividing the responsibilities is actually an opportunity and a really good chance for you to establish everything that you need, so that when things become more difficult than simply washing dishes, you have a system in place to be able to handle that and take that on.
Here's an example for you. What you want to do is think of it like your home. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
You want your relationship to be as if you're at your own home, where you know where everything is and you're able to deal with that.
Yeah.
And so when the light gets turned off, you can navigate that in that difficulty.
Yeah.
Right? If you guys are actively focusing on navigating your relationship before the lights get turned off, you're not going to make it when the lights get turned off. There's going to be fights. People are going to be stubbing their toes. There's going to be bloodshed everywhere. There's going to be so much bleeding. People crying. Babies crying.
Yeah.
It's not ideal.
That's a very good analogy. That's a very good metaphor, where you want to be so comfortable and familiar with how the two of you move, to like how the two of you navigate issues. Like you can now fall back on that knowledge to be able to trust each other to handle this huge new challenge, because it's going to require, the most important thing it's going to require is trust and respect. Yeah. And if you have a history of trusting and respecting each other, then you have a good chance of being able to making this one happen. But yeah, so those are the 3 things to keep in mind when you are now navigating how it is the two of you are going to share responsibilities. Number 1, it's going to require a series of discussions. We talked about how to do that. Number 2, be willing to step in. If your spouse needs you to step in on something that's their responsibility. And number 3, be prepared that when you have children, it'll be that much more difficult.
Yes.
Yes.
Number 4, if it ever gets down to it, don't be afraid to fist fight.
Okay, no. Please don't do that.
Good idea, guys. Please. Go ahead and do it.
Oh, no, please don't. We're going to get calls.
What are you talking about?
We're going to get so many calls. So speaking actually of that, why don't we go through a couple of questions?
Sure.
Okay, so this first question is one that somebody reached out to me on with Instagram. It's short. She asks, every time I talk about my husband, asking him to help me, he helps me for 1 or 2 weeks and then he stops. I think she's talking about responsibilities, right, in the household.
She's still the supervisor.
Yeah, because I think that's exactly what's going on. Because if you are handing over tasks rather than responsibilities, then that's the issue here. So for this client, I would tell her, what have you been talking about? Like, what is it I would ask her in more detail. How have you been dividing things? Yeah. Right. And most likely they're dividing tasks rather than whole responsibilities. Because if you hand over the whole responsibility of the issue, not just to take the garbage out, but I'm going to leave you in charge of all of the things that are related to garbage, what that does is now the person takes on the consequences of what will happen if it doesn't get done. Yeah. Versus if you just give away a task, those consequences are still with you because they know you're there to be that safety net, right? So they can afford to delay it because you'll take care of it. Yeah. Because that consequences are still with you. So part of handing over the responsibilities is to also hand over the responsibility, all of the consequences associated with it. So I'll give you an example. If we're driving somewhere, and I think that we're supposed to go one way, and you say that you were supposed to go another way, I just let go of everything associated. I'm like, yeah, definitely. If you think it's this way you're driving, we're going to go your way. Part of that means I'm accepting that whatever consequences happen are with you. Yeah. So if we go that way and it's the wrong way, it's fine. Right? Because it's not like those are your consequences. You know, you accept responsibility for that. It's In Shaa Allah, it's a small example, but hopefully it makes sense. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, yeah.
Yeah.
And also, like, helps motivate them against stopping after 1 or 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Right? Because she doesn't like the person that asked the question. She doesn't like that her husband stops.
Yeah.
After 1 or 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So he'll have the motivation when she talks to him.
Mm-hmm.
She give him the heartfelt, like, hey, I really need your help on this.
Mm-hmm.
And it motivates him for a while.
Mm.
But then he forgets and he stops.
Yeah.
Right? The one good way to sort of mitigate this is by every couple of days, you just thank whoever it is, whether it's the husband or the wife.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, hey, I do see that you're doing this for me and I really appreciate it. And I do thank you for doing that for me. It gives me enough time to focus on these tasks, right? So,
yeah.
Thank you. Right?
Yeah.
Every couple of days,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, that does make them feel appreciated first and foremost,
Mm-hmm.
but then also it refires them up, right? Jobs already figured this out.
Yeah.
With the performance checks, right? The performance meetings. They don't say, hey, good job. We'll see you in 6 years.
Yeah.
Right? When you start to go downhill. They'll monitor you and then every couple of weeks or something, they'll like, okay, time for the performance check. You've been doing pretty good. Keep it up, right? Now, of course, the job, they're trying to exploit you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So then they don't give you, and like usually they don't give you bonuses or whatever. But with your marriage, you feel the benefits of your performance.
Yeah.
Because it's a healthier relationship, it's a happier relationship, and it's more calm.
Yeah.
And that motivates you more
Yeah.
to do what you can.
Yeah. That's perfect. So just showing each other appreciation.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's like for example, that's one of the things that I read in all the books before we got married.
Mm-hmm.
So I made sure it was something that we incorporated into our marriage. So that's why, like, part of the reason why I'll say things like, I know today was a really hard day of work. I know the reason that you're working is for us. And I appreciate, and we all really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because, like, it's true that you would be working if you had just been on your own, right?
Yeah.
But it's also true that you're working harder because you're also with us. Yeah. Right? So it's important to show your spouse that appreciation, even though it is a responsibility that's their responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Part of wanting your spouse to be okay is to let them know that they're seen and they're heard and that their efforts matter to you, and that they're like and the appreciation is a really good way to do that. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely that would be a good number 4. Yeah, not the fist fighting, but I would say the good number 4 after the discussions and all the things that we mentioned. Yeah. The 4th thing to add to that equation is to show appreciation for each other.
Okay.
That would be
so we move fist fighting down to number 5.
Okay.
That's good.
Okay. Here is another question. It's coming from social media. It's a little bit longer. We're just going to read the shorter version. It is a woman who is asking. She says, so this is just the truncated version of her question. She's saying, I pay the bills, I tidy up the living area, I do the shopping, which is difficult when he uses the last of something and doesn't tell me. And this is a woman who is working full time. Her husband is working full time. They don't have any children. And she's listing what her issues are. So she says, I pay the bills, I clean the litter box, I tidy up the living area, I do the shopping, which is difficult when he uses the last of something and doesn't tell me. And I usually do shared laundry, like towels and sheets, and I scrub the toilet and clean the bathroom. I also do all the same stuff he does. She says, our shifts overlap. I work late while he works early. It hurts that I spend my solo time doing what he needs to be done while he spends his solo time relaxing. If I don't do it or ask him specifically to do it, I feel like it doesn't get done, right? I've tried to explain this to him, but it's like he just doesn't get it. Just tell me what you want me to do. So this is in quotations. He's asking her, just tell me what you want me to do. And she says, but I don't want to have to do that. I have enough on my plate without being an unpaid manager at home. I'm worried that if we have kids, my duties will multiply while his stay the same. Is this just how relationships are? If so, being a cat lady doesn't sound so bad. So she's talking about exactly what it was that we were talking about.
Easy solution, right? I mean, it's a shame she wrote so much. Just go to step number 5.
Okay,
fist fight.
Fist fight?
Yeah. I feel like he deserves it.
Honestly, I think, right, I'm assuming the best, right? But I found that he probably doesn't see it.
Yeah,
he doesn't.
I mean, of
see
course, because they're staggered shifts.
Yeah, but he's saying that line is telltale, where he's willing to communicate, and he says, "Just tell me what you want me to do."
Yeah.
Because the issue is not so much as that he's not willing to pull his weight for the group project. It's just that he doesn't understand what his role is.
Usually, the male mindset, right?
Yeah.
Because I asked you this question before.
Yes, that's what it was a little triggering.
As well.
I remembered it so well.
Yeah, back when you were doing more work than you should be doing, right? Because you're telling me to not do these activities like the dishes.
Yeah.
And I found there wasn't really much for me left to do.
Yeah.
Right, because you were taking over everything.
Yeah.
And when you would say, "Hey, I need you to help me out," I'm like, "Okay, so what can I do?" Right? Because I'm not able to do these things.
Yeah. So what's left? Yeah.
Right. And you also had the same problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's when you decided the whole truncating everything into
responsibilities.
My zone. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. So that would be similar to the advice that I would give her. I would say that this sounds like somebody who cares about your well-being and wants you to be okay. And that's a huge part of the equation. That's somebody who's wanting to be a team player, right? But he's just not understanding what you want him to do, right? Like he doesn't understand what his role is in the relationship. So right now he has conceptualized his role as an employee.
Yeah.
Right? An employee, a supervisor, and an employee.
Well, a bread maker, right?
Yeah.
Like it's men, right?
Yeah.
They usually have that mindset, like, I'm working, so the time I spend at home should be relaxing, watching TV with my favorite food or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? They don't usually think about the other things. So that's what he's doing, right? He's coming home and he's relaxing, and he sees the mess. Yeah. Right? Like, he sees the laundry that needs to be done. He sees the dishes that need to be cleaned. He sees all this other stuff. But he thinks to himself, this is not something that needs to be done right now. Yeah. Right? This is something that either I can do later or this is something that she may do.
I think it's more than the latter. Because if she has a history of getting things done, he doesn't know that she's struggling with it.
Yeah.
He probably doesn't see the struggle. And if he does see the struggle, he doesn't understand how he's contributing to it.
So he thinks that she does it effortlessly.
Yeah. Right? You don't see. Because it comes from our childhood.
Yeah.
Because when we're younger and we're at home, we would just come home and dinner would be on the table. Now, as adults, we understand what that took for our mom.
Oh, the dishes, just the dishes by itself.
Yeah.
When I cook, right, the cakes, the cookies, whatever. Yeah. The dishes that pile up. Yeah. Even just something simple as cereal.
Oh, okay.
What is this? A bowl and a spoon? That's too much.
Yes, it is.
It's way too much.
But I'm thinking, like, if you add on top of all of that, my mom, she worked, right? So, my mom would go to work. She'd come home. She would cook everything. Yeah. And then she'd go back out. She'd pick us kids up from school. She'd bring us back home. And when we were younger, she would, whoever needed bathing would get bathed, putting in new clothes. Like, then she'd put fresh clothes. And I remember part of the reason why I am so obsessive with all the clothes being perfect. That's how that's how I was raised. She used to do that. Everything was perfectly clean, perfectly lined up. Tabarakallah. So now as an adult, I understand what it takes to make that happen. But as a kid, I would just come home and food would be there.
Pampered.
Yeah, for decades, food would just be there. All my laundry was always done. I don't think I made my bed until I was like 14, 15 years old, right?
Yeah.
So everything was just taken care of. And sometimes because of their upbringing, this is even more prolonged for men because there is that socialization that don't worry about this part.
Yeah.
This is not something you have to worry about. You focus on school, doing well in school, and performing well in your career. That's your role.
Yeah.
This other part, if you want, you can help out. And if you help out, you're a good guy. But it's not your primary responsibility.
Yeah.
That's the messaging that's internalized.
It's the same as raising the kids.
Yeah.
If you see a father at the park with their child,
yeah,
he's such a good father.
Yeah.
It's the bare minimum.
Yeah, absolutely, right? So society hasn't really, the culture has not really had a chance to catch up with the economic reality.
Yeah.
Right? So what I'm saying is just like we didn't see it as children. We didn't see our parents' efforts. I didn't see my mother's effort. He probably doesn't see her effort.
Yeah.
Right? So if I would see my mom upset and tired, I would go to my mom. I would say, what can I do to help you? It's that same question he's asking her.
Yeah.
What can I do to help you? Whereas what needs to be done is it needs to be reframed. That you and I are not mom, parent, child. We're not supervisor and employee. We are equal partners who are equally responsible for this household. That's just the reality of where we live, right?
Yeah.
If I'm going to be working and you're going to be working and we're going, then that means the responsibilities are also going to have to shift to match that. Because just like you're a human being, I'm also a human being. There's only so much I can take, right? So it's that conversation that she needs to have with him, and it's going to take several conversations to be able to help make him understand what she is just starting to understand herself, that it's not a task, it's responsibilities.
True.
Yeah, like it's to shift the perspective to help him understand that you're going to take over these responsibilities and I'm going to take over these responsibilities. Yeah. And we're just going to have a series of meetings to see how that's working out until we hit that balance point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what she and her spouse would need to do or in order to get to that balance point, inshallah. And to answer her question, no, relationships are not just like this. They don't have to be just like this.
Yeah.
It's something that you can communicate your way through to get to a better place, inshallah, where the both of you are happy with the amount that you're contributing with, because what you feel each is contributing is fair in both of your perceptions.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Also, to add on,
okay,
cats are going to eat your face after all said and done.
At the end of the day, right?
Yeah. So if you become a cat lady, just get ready to have your face eaten.
Subhanallah.
Yeah.
You know, like there is some truth to that, but I still like cats.
They're fun.
Yeah, they're so cool. Much fun. Definitely. Yes, they're definitely. We have, inshallah, one day in the future. Would you like a cat?
I've been asking for a cat for so long.
The whole time?
The whole time.
I just didn't hear?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've wanted a cat for so long, but we're waiting just a little longer for our nephew to get a bit older.
Yeah, that's true. Inshallah. But it is in the plan. But inshallah, like, hopefully that gives a little bit of clarity to this issue. And I really hope that people take the time to try to approach it in this way. This way is the way that worked for us.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah, I feel like this is the way that works for a number of clients. And try not to look at it as a challenge so much. It's important that you look at it as an opportunity to really solidify and cement those good conflict resolution systems that you're going to need in place, not just when it comes to children, to navigate all of the big challenges that happen in life, where you're going to really need something to lean back on. You need to have those systems already in place. They won't materialize out of nowhere. And inshallah, that's most of this topic. Last question is, as always, what would you advise to the brothers?
Option number 5 is not actually on the table. Please don't go for it.
Not fist fighting?
No fist fighting.
Please don't fist fight.
Yeah. If you're gonna fist fight anyone, fist fight the bear that she's looking at.
Okay. What is that meme? I don't get that.
They're saying that statistically, bears attack women less than men do. So they choose the bear. But in choosing the bear, it would skew the statistics the other way around, because the bears will almost always attack the women.
Yeah, it's
a point piece, right?
It sounds like internet nonsense. Is it internet nonsense?
I don't believe the women are actually serious about the point. No. They're just memeing, right? They're just like, guys are more dangerous than bears.
Okay.
You know?
All right, because that's... All right, I have so many...
They don't actually believe that.
Good, because there's so many... it's so many rebuttals.
Yeah, no, they don't believe... If they actually did believe that, we would be seeing in the news bears attacks already.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we don't see it.
I see what they're trying to say, but it's in such a ridiculous... I'm not going to judge. We're just going to leave the internet be and let the internet. Yeah. Inshallah.
But for the guys, we're no longer the sole breadwinners, right? Society has seen to that. So we can't have this ego about us where, ya akhi, I'm not the one that does the dishes. I'm not the one that does the cleaning in the house. This is your job, woman. Get back in the kitchen, you know?
Yeah.
That's not the... We can't back that up, you know? Because now they have to work just so that we can have a living, just so we can survive.
Yeah.
Because our purchasing power by itself is not strong enough. So if we can't do that by ourselves, what's to expect that they can, right?
Yeah.
Because it was already such a difficult task.
Yeah.
Raising the children and keeping the house by itself.
Yeah.
And now they have to do a 9 to 5 on top of that.
Yeah, subhanAllah. It's a lot to ask of one person.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's very beautiful advice, inshallah, and I hope it lands with some of the brothers, because being, even if you don't like after everything else, your spouse is your spouse, but even before she's your spouse, she's your sister in Islam. She's a human being that you care about as a human being, like just like we care about every single member of our ummah. We like, you're my brother in Islam. So it's important that you take care of her well-being and you make sure that she is able to handle the responsibilities that are on her plate. Check in on her, make sure, and to really share that mental load so it's more balanced. And of course, like the same is true vice versa. That a lot of that, because there are quite a few brothers out there who are finding themselves having to really shoulder the responsibilities of the house along with their 9 to 5. In some marriages, it does happen. So if that's the case, sisters, you have to care about your brother. Make sure that he's a human being. He can only do so much before it starts to take a toll on his physical health, his mental health. You want him to be okay. So make sure that you're sharing that mental load with him.
And don't forget that in society, men do not get compliments.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Us men, we don't go outside to get compliments, right? Like we want to be complimented, and as the wife, do compliment your husband, because in life that's almost always the only source of compliments.
It's from your spouse. Yeah.
A compliment will drive him for so long. The number of people that have told me, this is my favorite shirt. Oh, why is it your favorite shirt? 10 years ago, a girl complimented me while I was wearing it. That's all it takes.
Are there any of those shirts in our house?
Eventually, yeah. Okay. The black shirt. Yeah.
Okay, why?
I have a black shirt.
All right, okay. You had a black shirt.
What happened to it?
Nothing. Nothing. But what you're saying is very important, that when it comes back to appreciation, right? So definitely make sure that you are appreciating your spouse for all that they're doing. You know, it is a partnership, and just like you want to be seen and heard, make sure that you are seeing and hearing their efforts and appreciating their efforts, because it's a blessing.
Get it. You're jealous.
Yes.
You're the one that complimented me about the black shirt.
Was it me?
Yeah, it was you.
That's fine.
Is that what you said? You had a black... You were like going to toss it out? No, it was you.
Okay. All right. Okay. Alhamdulillah. Oh, years ago. Okay, that makes sense. If it was somebody else...
Not years ago.
Yeah.
No. You bought the black shirt for me when we got married.
Oh, that black shirt. All right. I get you.
And then you told me I looked good in it. And now it's my favorite shirt.
Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah. Jazaa K'Allah Khayr. I'm glad we get to keep the shirt. Alhamdulillah. This is good news. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this week's episode. In Shaa Allah, I hope you benefited and that you enjoyed this episode. The next one up will be up next Thursday, as usual, In Shaa Allah. If next Thursday is too far away, please feel free to check us out on Instagram. We are at Zahra Hassan Coaching, and the links will be somewhere
in the description.
In the description, In Shaa Allah. We also, if you would like to know what it's like to work with me, because I'm a relationship coach for Muslim women, we have free group coaching weekly for Muslim women, and details on how to join next session, which will be on Saturday, are also on the Instagram page. So feel free to check us out there.
And for the men, if you want to get free coaching from me, it's not possible. I'm not a coach.
Okay.
Good try.
Well, they can just come to the episodes.
Sure.
Yeah, just tune in, inshallah.
Yeah.
And that's it for this week. Jazaa K'Allah Khayr. We appreciate your time. And assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.